You're listening to Dumpster Diving with
Janice.
and Jane. She was a couple seconds late on that one.
I was
Gee,
like,
what's going on?
and I was about to feed you your name. I was going to hold up a coupon on our Zoom so everybody could see that you knew your name. And I love the fact that you pause. And here's why. Because
Why?
listeners, today is Sunday, March 10th. So for those of you who are tracking, it is the day we sprang forward, which, we could spend an hour talking about how stupid that system is, but we're not going to. But I don't usually have I usually don't get impacted by the time change. It doesn't really impact me one way or the other. I was up at what was 7 a.m. this morning because of the spring forward. Um, and as I said to Jane, so Jane had to text me in all honesty at 9:10 and say, so I'm here, ready to go. Where are
I'm just
you?
like sitting here looking cute and
I
like,
know. You do
let's,
look cute, by the way. You look super cute. I love the gloves. They're super cute.
I'm
And
cold.
I was like, oh shit, because it's not that I wasn't up, but I have been late to every single thing this morning. And Jane's like, don't you have a phone? Because younger sisters are assholes. That's what is the truth. And I was like, it's not that I don't have 27 clocks telling me what time it is. It's that my body literally this morning is like, oh, you still have plenty of time. And so thank God you paused over your own name because now we're even. So there,
Yeah,
at least you know
well,
my name.
guess
Okay.
what? Now we're even because I was the one that fucked up the intro last time, and then you fucked it up
That's
this.
actually so true. That's
That's
actually
true.
so true.
So
So
whoever's
even
our
Steven,
listeners who's keeping score,
yeah, yeah,
we're
we're even right now for the scorekeepers out there. So now we're here. Whew, flash
even.
forward. We're
Sunday.
in the part
Just
of the
run
year.
ahead.
We're ready to go. So here's what we're gonna do. You guys are starting to see a thread that we're pulling through, right? Because parenting is something that we're getting a lot of great feedback around. If we have a little bit of collective experience between us. And so we're going to kind of keep coming to back to different angles, if you will, to think about. So if you're listening diligently every single week, a couple weeks ago, the episode that we posted was about this idea of like lawnmower versus lighthouse parent. And so we're not going to go back into all of that. If you want to know what the hell we're talking about, go back and listen to that episode.
But you'll
And
want to
while
know
you're
those
there, share it.
terms. But you'll want
Yes.
to know those terms because we're going to start using them on a regular basis,
Exactly.
I think.
Exactly. All right. So because of that, we'll remind everybody right now for this episode's sake that when we say lawnmower parent, it's that parent who isn't just a helicopter parent and over involved in their child's life, but they're also like literally walking in front of them and eliminating all barriers and obstacles. And so clearly not the ideal because we're not preparing our young people to actually face the world on their own. Whereas a lighthouse parent is offering structure and boundaries, but they're doing it with love and compassion with their children and they're lighting the way, right? They're helping,
Right.
they're a guiding light. There's somebody, your kids know that you're there to offer them counsel and to be a coach and those kinds of things, but you're not just removing barriers and or telling them what to do and how to navigate life. So with that as a basis, today we want to build off of that and talk about like how we intentionally build confidence and emotional intelligence in our kids. And so I'm thinking, Jane, why don't we start with like, let's be clear about language. And so if you don't mind, start us off by talking about when we say confidence, what do we mean? When we say emotional intelligence, what do we mean? That way we have that as a basis for our conversation today.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about confidence, right? So confidence is the ability to trust in one's own skills and judgment to handle various situations. And while some individuals they're really great at exuding confidence in every shape and form, confidence isn't something that people are born with, but something that we acquire and cultivate throughout our lives.
Yeah.
So, and I truly believe, I mean, I was kind of chuckling in my own head when you were giving the definitions of the lighthouse and lawnmower parent,
Yeah.
helicopter parent, and I was like, I was chuckling because I was thinking of like it being at a birthday party with a bunch of little kids, right?
Okay.
We start off as lawnmower parents. I mean,
Right.
infants, like we're
Yeah.
like we're
Everybody. That's a
healed,
great
right?
point.
Like, we have to start off as lawnmower parents. You can't be a lighthouse parent with an infant, right? You're like,
Right.
sorry, kid, get to that tit. I don't know. Climb
Good
your
luck.
way, figure it out, whatever, right? So we all have to start off as that lawnmower parent. We are their protector. But I'm thinking about it, and you go to like now you're at the 8-year-old's birthday party where most parents could be on the edges doing
Yeah.
the thing, but there's still that lawnmower parent or that
Yep.
helicopter parent, and it's not we're not getting like the helicopter parent is I think should be for like the toddlers. Okay, you're
Right.
hovering, Don't bump your head on that coffee table. Oh, look what a weeble
Right.
wobbling.
Don't die.
Right.
Yeah.
And then once they're steady on their feet, they can feed hand to mouth their own food and maybe make their own bowl of cereal. Now you can be that lighthouse parent. You can
Right.
dive in when you need to, and be that helicopter parent here and there, but at that point, like you got to let them figure things out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because sometimes parents start off at that lighthouse,
Yeah.
like they're just like they're here. I don't know,
Yep.
and so I don't know why my mind was flooded with all those images, and it just cracked me up when you were saying it because I'm like, I've seen these in all different age groups and variations,
I
and
love it.
we've been those parents
Yeah.
too in some ways and stuff like
I
that.
like the idea. We should come back to that and map that out at some point as
Like
a
the
resource for our
transition, the
listeners.
timeline.
But I
Yeah.
love the idea of the birthday. I've thought about the same idea in the past with the playground in mind.
Mhm.
But I love the idea of the birthday party as well, right? And the how different parents position themselves in those social situations with their kids, and what it says about who they are as a parent, and how we kind of want to intentionally evolve to what you're
Yeah.
to your point,
Yeah.
versus parents who just get stuck. Like Rose, when
Right.
she talked with us a few weeks ago, that was her
Yeah.
thing. She got stuck as the helicopter, right?
Right.
And so and then breaking away from that. So and but to your point, right, that this idea of confidence really makes you think about that, because the type of parent you are absolutely is sending messages to your kid. Because even
Right.
though, like you said, when they're an infant, of course you're the lawnmower parent, because
Of
they're
course.
it's a survival mode.
Yeah.
But as they become aware of this idea of what they're capable of, right? What I can and can't do, the more we do for them, the more we're messaging it's because we
Right.
don't believe you can do it. Even though that's not necessarily the point we're coming from. I think very few parents are thinking about, oh, my kid's too no, too incompetent to do that themselves. They're thinking about, oh, I want to do it for them. I want to, like, there's a lot of reasons that we become helicopter and lawnmower parents, but I think that we don't stop to think about the messaging for our kids. And our kids are definitely hearing, you don't think I can do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah. All right.
So,
So confidence we got.
okay, so emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, or what we'll call it as EI,
Yeah.
is the ability to understand and manage your own and others' emotions as well to communicate and relate effectively in different situations. And emotional intelligence can improve your self-confidence,
Absolutely.
as well as your personal and professional relationships. So these two go hand in hand, and as we talk and unfold and stuff like that, you'll see that continuing theme with every aspect of parenting and
That's
every
right.
aspect of life, because us us as individuals being able to read somebody's emotions and process them correctly, and then be able to process our own and back and forth, is a key point to communication in itself. And if
Yeah.
you're not confident with your own stuff, or being able to read the other person, man, the confidence in a lot of things can dissipate,
That's
so
right.
let's talk about that, because I think this is going to be a fun conversation. This is going to be a
Yeah,
fun
I think so too. So I'm thinking about, like, I'm gonna jump in with kind of an example, right? And then and I know you've got some as well, but like I have a family in my life who this is kind of current and in my head, right? Like I could give you lots of examples, and we'll talk about some of them in terms of like what happens by the time your kid's a teenager when
Mhm.
you have not intentionally helped build that confidence as a toddler, as a elementary, as a middle schooler, what that kind of turns into at the teenage level. But like, and more immediately in my kind of immediate life, we have a family who has a little girl who's about 5 years old, and it's been interesting to watch. Like the part of the problem about having the background I have as a special education teacher, et cetera, is that I tune in to little kids, and I see, I see things that kind of make me go, all right, that's a little bit of a red flag. Or from a developmental perspective, I had, for example, a high school, oh my God, I love them so much, a high school friend, and we've remained friends, since then. And so, have a bunch of kids and the whole thing. And I remember years and years ago when his now like 26, 27-year-old son was like 2 or 3, and they came over to visit, and we were going to take a walk in our community. And as we were getting ready to walk out the door, he said, just by the way, I want to give you a heads up because he's into something really weird right now. And we were like, okay, what? I mean, he's like 2 or 3. Of course he's into weird shit, like they all are at that age. And I was like, well, what is it? He was like, he likes to lick fire hydrants. And I was like, um,
You know, dogs pee on those, right?
I wasn't really sure what to do with that, but at the time I was working really deeply with young people who have the diagnosis of autism, and I had also seen some other indicators, right? Like him stimming on some things and that kind of stuff. And I just thought, oh my God, I'm gonna have to tell this friend that he might want to get his kid looked at, right? And long story short, he did in fact like to lick fire hydrants, but you know, he's grown into a fully capable man who's been married and is having children and the whole thing, right? So, but the other kid I was thinking about was like she same thing early on, not a lot of talking, not a lot of speech. Her speech wasn't developing along the lines that we would expect to see happen. But the interesting thing about that situation and why it ties to this is that what I noticed is that I couldn't actually determine if her speech was delayed because her mother spoke for her. Every time you had a conversation with this kid, right, and you asked her something, and she was saying things that were, you know, early on at 2, not quite comprehensible, right, because the language isn't that clear. But instead of letting her figure it out, or with the other person she was chatting with figure it out, mom would jump in, right, and
Right.
mom would jump in and say, "Oh, she said this," or "Oh, she said that," and so, you know, kind of as an educator, it was frustrating because it's like, okay, just let her speak. Like, it's okay that I can't
Yeah.
understand her, but she's not going to get there if we don't let her speak. Flash forward again, she's 5 now and she speaks just fine. But she's also old enough that when mom still tries to do that, right? So we're still helicoptering a lot. She's old enough to be like, Mom, no, go, 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 because
Right.
she knows she wants to express herself, right? So that's just an example of a way that that mom who adores her child and wants to do all the things for her and has no negative intention is not boosting her confidence, right?
Right.
Is not helping her build that belief in herself because she's suggesting every time she speaks for her that she's not capable of doing it herself.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. It's. I mean, that's the first way. I mean, besides crying, that's the first way
Mhm.
that babies start to communicate.
Yeah.
Crying, you know, thrusting their body out of the stroller, whatever,
Yeah.
those
Exactly.
behaviors, the acting out to get attention. And so when they're finally communicating with language, if we're talking over them the whole time, it's
Exactly.
it's struggle.
Yeah.
And so we all know that I have 4 children and I have 2 older ones and then 2 younger ones. And
Yeah.
the 2 older ones were only 15 months apart, and my son being autistic, and we knew developmentally it was a little staggered, and we were wondering, but his older sister would do all the talking for him. They're
Yeah.
only 15 months apart. So,
Yes.
and she spoke his language, and that was her baby. That
Yeah.
was like her baby doll. So he developmentally didn't start walking until he was about 15 months old, but
Yeah.
he would gesture for things, but she would just talk for him, and I had to really like work with her to let him say it, but
Yeah.
I know what he wants. I said, I know she started talking very
You're
early.
like, I know that you
Like,
know.
I know, she was walking at 9 months, like she was a powerhouse, and she
Right.
still is, so she's definitely my child. But I had to really work with her not to speak for him
Yeah.
because of that.
Yeah.
But we started talking about this all together because my youngest daughter,
Yeah.
who is 4 years younger than Chase did a lot of that for her too.
Yeah.
And I noticed at a very young age she had, I never got her diagnosed with this or anything like that, but I felt like she had selective mutism, because at home she would talk no
Yeah.
problem, very intelligent, very intellectual, like she uses great words, and does all the
Yeah.
things. But she would clam up in restaurants, anywhere public. She
Yeah.
she would sing at school, but anytime they had a production, she would lip sing. She wouldn't even nothing would come out of her mouth,
Oh.
because she would like freeze up when it was in front of like the whole,
Yeah.
audience and stuff like that. And so I really worked with her. Chase would talk for her a lot. And so I really worked with Chase, but even now she's 13. And just,
Yeah.
the other day we are in the kitchen, and I had said something like, well, just talk to them about it. And she was like, Mom, I only really talk to you and Chase. She's like, okay.
Uh,
And I'm like, what? I go, still, Jenny, still. And she was like, I'm just so shy. And we've talked about this before. She's like, you and Chase are so outgoing, and you just talk to anybody and it's no big deal. And I want to be more like that, but I don't know how. And I was like, okay, well, we're gonna have to start working on it then. We're gonna have
exactly.
to
Yeah.
figure out what's going to boost that. What is it? Are you not confident? No, she's very confident. I'm like,
Yeah.
do you, I don't know. I just don't want to talk, I guess she's comfortable being shy, and
Yeah.
at this,
Yeah.
she's going into high school. She's like, I really want to be able to talk to people. I really want to do those things.
Yeah.
So we're starting to work on that. But I thought about it, and I thought back to when she was little and would shut down and stuff, and thinking to the revelations she's having now, she wants to be more like me and Chase. She would let us talk for her. She would let
Yes.
us be in the front, and she liked
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
Whether it was a level of protection or whatever, but now it's becoming very relevant to me that she liked that.
Yeah.
So she still does it. I mean, even to this
Yeah.
day, I'm like, Jenny, tell them what you want.
Right.
You're 13. I can't order for you anymore, but she's just super shy,
Yeah.
and so, but that was because of us, our
Yeah.
personalities of being maybe a little overbearing and stuff like that. So it just made me
Thank
think
God you
about,
finally admitted it, because I've been wanting
I
to tell you
know.
that for a long time.
You've only
Woo!
known me for not even 2 years, so
I feel better. I feel better.
your whole life I've been waiting to tell you
Your
this.
whole fucking
Ah.
life, girl, your whole life. But that's actually such an interesting point, right? Because think about that. Like, as parents of young littles, right?
Mhm.
Of course, it's an instinct. Like you said, it's the most natural instinct I think we have is being the lawnmower. That's the
Yes,
most natural
the
instinct. It's built
protector.
into our DNA to be the protector and to make sure this young version of me survives, right? So that survival instinct is so built into us. I think that being anything but that is intentional, right? It has to be intentional because otherwise that's who we'd be. So even when they're little like that, yes, like I remember at young ages with our kids, like in restaurants saying, "Okay, Montana, tell them what you want," or "Okay,
Right.
Sid," and they would be shy, right? And sometimes it would be like whispered, and then I would tell them, and then eventually they could do it on their own. But our instinct is to say, "Okay, I'll just tell them," right? Like let them point,
Right.
and I'll just tell them. But I love what you're talking about right now because now that she's 13, A, she recognizes in herself, and she wants to be different in terms of being able to
Emotional.
communicate.
I am so
Yes.
proud of her emotional intelligence,
A freaking men.
right?
Exactly.
I was like,
Exactly. To
"You
be
see
that
my little heart."
self-aware. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's huge, right? And so, and I almost think that the good thing is that when they're old enough to be that self-aware and to have that level of EI, like you said, that's the time where you really can dig in and really use strategies. Because
right.
up until that point, again,
You're
that
fighting them.
low key instinct is protect them. And so
Yeah.
you don't want to embarrass them or humiliate them or you know what I
No.
mean? So it's tricky, right? Like I think that's the message I want people to take is like no matter where you are on the spectrum as you're listening to this, if you're like, "Oh shit, I do that all the time for my kid." Like know that we know that it's tricky. It's not easy, right? And so you
Right.
just have to be super thoughtful about it. So what are you guys thinking about in terms of like have you guys talked a little bit about like strategies that you might start to use?
Yeah, so she's so cute because she's always had this, like, she's so cute. We were
Okay,
talking
we
about,
know she's cute. Okay,
I
we know
know,
she's cute.
I love her personality because there's a surprise around every corner. So the other day we were in the car driving and I was like, "So, have you thought about like what you want to be when you get older now that you're 13?" And we asked them, or I asked them throughout the years, but it always changes, and I just loved to hear about their little imagination. She hits me with, "I want to be a race car driver." And I'm like,
Oh my God, I
I
love
look
it.
over at her and I was like, "Oh, okay." I go, like what kind?" She goes, "The ones that go around in the circle and goes really fast." And I was like, "Well, most race cars." She was thinking like drag racing, stuff like that. So I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
"Okay." So like NASCAR, and she's like, "Yeah, I just want like a fast car." Because, just a couple months ago, she told me that she has two cars that she wants, her dream cars, a Tesla and a Hellcat.
Oh God,
Told
that's
me right
hilarious.
there that not only are you economical,
Yes,
but you are a speed queen. Like,
right. You therefore will never be getting your driver's license. You're welcome.
you therefore will be getting a bicycle. So
Exactly.
the governor on it. And
That's
I,
right.
because
And
I'm
a
sure,
helmet and pads.
yeah, and you'll figure out a way to make it faster. I don't know. So, my God. So I'm like, all right. I go, well, we need to figure out how to get you into racing because I'm like, I'm about this life. Let's go. Like,
That's right. You're
if you
like
want to be
pit
a race car
crew.
driver,
Woo!
let's go. She goes, do you have to go to college for that? I'm like, probably not, but a good driving school is probably definitely
That's
in
right.
order.
That's
So,
right. Oh my God, that's
oh my God.
hilarious.
So we're talking about it and she's getting all excited, and so I'm like, okay, what else? And she was like, I really want to do she's been wanting to do either martial arts or something like
Yeah.
that. And so she's been going on her lunch break at school, and they have like a trainer there that's helping the
Yeah.
kids. She's like one of the teachers. And she was doing like sparring, and she's like, I
Right.
really want to do a boxing class, like a real boxing class, not boxing,
Yeah.
the kind where you beat each other up. And I was
Right.
like, okay, because she also has this fascination with having muscles, and I'm like, I'm
Right.
about that life too.
Yeah.
Go, and and so yeah,
Oh,
she last
okay,
night.
we should have her, in all seriousness, we should have her talk with Montana, because Montana is doing Krav Maga, and she's been doing it for years. And she just
Oh,
tested
okay.
last weekend or 2 weeks ago into the advanced level, which I can't remember what color belt that's tied to a belt color. And I think I shared in a previous episode that I did an introductory class when I was there in Virginia with her about a month ago. I'm going to do another one next weekend. But the reason I say it is because it's like it's kind of like it's, obviously it's kind of it's not a martial art. I don't think it's considered that, but it's like Israeli street fighting, right? So it's like, and
Perfect.
even in the introductory class,
Yeah.
it's like the teacher, the coach was like, we're gonna hit each other, right? He's like, we can't prepare to fight if we don't actually hit each other when we're preparing. Now, we're not going to like really hurt each other. And when it was like the grow and kick move, we had a pad, right? But he's like, but we're gonna hit each other. And when Montana leaves those classes, she has bruises, she has scratches, she has, because it's like, if you're really gonna instinctively be able to fend off an attacker, you have to know what it feels like to fend off an attacker.
Yeah.
So it's badass. So I'm just,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Well,
another great avenue.
she likes the sparring part with the hand pad.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
she's like,
Yep.
she is laser
That's
focused
cool.
on this.
Yeah. And they
So
have
last night
those
she was
all over the
like,
place, like those gyms
yeah,
that do.
yeah. I found a
Yeah.
gym locally. I mean, we live in a little small town, so there's
Yeah.
not many, but there's one up the road from us that does youth boxing. So I'm like, okay,
Oh, very
yeah,
cool.
it goes up to 14. So I'm like, okay, I feel
That's
good.
perfect.
Youth boxing for 2 years, and then
Exactly.
go
Try it
into,
out and then
yeah,
go. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I want to sign her up for that. I think that she would really like it. I might even sign up too, because I need to get
Oh,
my
yeah.
rear end into the some type of gym, and
Yeah.
I loathe the regular gyms, so I think
Yeah.
that would be something fun. Um, so but yeah, and so but I think that doing stuff like that builds your confidence.
Yeah.
When one thing that my mom, as much as I bag on her, for very relevant and
Good
right
reason.
reasons,
Yeah.
good reasons, she got us into 4-H when I was in junior high school, and it made me present. I
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
sheep and chickens and goats and
Yep.
rabbits, and I did table place settings and tables and made menus, and she had me doing all these things that I had never done before.
Yeah.
But when you do showmanship with the animals, you're out there in a ring with judges, and that
Yeah.
really helped me, because I was just like Jenny. I
Yeah.
had I had an a critical overbearing mother, and I was just every mother loved me because I was quiet. And
Yeah.
I'm realizing these things as I'm talking to her. I'm like, oh my God, I was the same way.
Isn't that
I was
funny?
the observer and would love the drama, but stay behind because I don't want to get
Yep.
in trouble, but I'm going to watch it happen. We are so much alike. I'm like,
That's hilarious.
holy crap. So I'm like, you know what? That's what helped me.
Yeah.
And you know what? And she's asking for it. She's
Yeah.
excited about it. We're going to do this,
You
and
got to do it. You got to make it happen, right?
and
Yeah.
that's really what helped me with my confidence. After that, you couldn't tell me
That's
shit.
right.
You
Yeah.
couldn't tell me shit,
Yeah.
because I
Well,
learned that people would be nice to me. I learned,
yes.
and all those things, and I'm like, I don't need this criticalness. I don't. Yeah, that was a good turning point for me with the way I saw myself.
And it was exposure to adults outside of your home
Yeah.
who gave you positive feedback, who
Mhm.
showed that they were interested, which, by the way, that's not always going to happen, right? Sometimes you put yourself out there and you get the asshole, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's condescending or whatever, because you're a child, or you're a girl, or both, or whatever. So
Right.
that's not always going to happen, but creating those opportunities, right, is really
Right.
critical. And even as a high school principal, I worked with a group in our school who supported, it was like a peer support group, right? So they supported other kids in different ways. But one of the things they do at the start of the school year is a bunch of different like video, I'm going to use the word lessons on how to navigate high school, right? And I remember vividly one of our conversations being about how important it was for them to do some role playing with
Mhm.
how to talk with adults,
Mhm.
right? Because as the helicopter parent is shifting to the lighthouse parent, and if you haven't done that by high school, you're already behind, right?
Right. Way behind. Yeah.
And we can't do that. We can't make that shift without building the capacity of our kids to then step into those roles. If you're always the parent who reaches out to the teacher when there's a problem, unless you coach your kid up to be able to do it, it can't be today I'm doing it and tomorrow I'm not, right? There's got to be some in between ground. And so this group of kids would create videos where they would role play. Okay, let's say you disagree with a grade that you've got. How do you talk to the teacher about that, right? What does
Right.
it look like to talk to the teacher about it? And they would role play. Okay, let's say you got your course schedule and there's a class that was wrong or that you're concerned about because you've had that teacher before. How do you go talk to your counselor and do that, right? From the beginning of like you email them, you make a request to get on their calendar to da da da. And then when you're having the conversation, like we can coach our kids up around these things. But lots of times we don't think to do it, right? So because the flip side of the lighthouse or the helicopter parent is a parent who I'm trying to think of the name of this and I'm forgetting the name of it, but like who just kind of under the auspices of helping you build your confidence just dumps you into it, right? And if you dump
Right.
us into it and we fail, we're going to have a hard time recovering from that. So how do you set
Dump
us up? How
parent.
do we set our how do we set them up for success
Yeah.
by coaching them, right? Coaching them
No,
up.
that's a great point because when I first started working with the nonprofit out of LA, it was on a grant, a large grant that we got for um, oh my gosh, scholarships
Yeah.
for 200 individuals, right? And I've told that story before where I single-handedly coached 200
Yeah.
individuals through 2 years worth of their schooling and everything.
Right.
And one of my coachees in particular is right here. And now
Yeah.
and this woman, super intelligent, multiple degrees, all of those things.
Yeah.
But again, this emotional intelligence and confidence plays a key part in our day-to-day life in so many different ways. She was awarded a scholarship. She was
Yeah.
awarded $5,000 to go towards a certificate. She already had it all picked out and everything else. Well, we were in a transition, and so I started, and there was multiple people that had been awarded multiple months ahead of time and hadn't received any communication from our team when I started.
Okay.
And I was like, whoa, like,
Yeah.
okay, how many people have been awarded? There was like 45. And I'm like, how many people have we talked to? 5. And I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
okay. I go, okay, my first job is I'm reaching out to these people.
Yeah.
Your first job is to award the rest of the
Yeah.
scholarships. So because our deadline is 6 weeks away and we still have
Right.
155 people to award. So
Money that's just sitting there. Yep.
let's go. So I start calling everybody and they're calling back. They're like, oh, great, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we were waiting, yada, 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 get them rolling. Everything's going. And this one person in particular, I call her, and she is the sweetest woman in the world. She's just so sweet. And she goes, Jane, she goes, I'm so glad you called. She goes, I just thought it just wasn't meant to be. And I'm
Oh.
like, what? And she goes, yeah, I just, I hadn't heard from anybody and I made some phone calls and never got a call back. And I just thought it wasn't meant to be and blah, blah, blah. And at that moment I said, okay, one of the things we're going to work on is you fighting for what is yours.
There you go. Amen.
Because that is yours. It's
Yeah.
yours. You are awarded it. Nothing should ever be taken away from you like that.
Yeah.
If you think that, and just you allowing that thought to even come in and consume you in that way, like
That's right.
she was upset,
Yeah,
and
of
then
course.
she was overwhelmed with happiness, of
Yeah,
course.
of course.
One of the first things we're going to work on is that confidence, my friend. And she was like, that would be really awesome, like 'cause
Oh
she
my
knew
gosh.
it was something that she could
Yeah.
control,
Yeah.
but because she had been let down and everything else,
Yeah.
that she just assumed that it wasn't meant to be and she just didn't need it, or whatever. And I was just so upset about that. But if
And
we were,
that's what it looks like as an
yeah,
adult
yep,
when you haven't had people in your life as a young person who help you build those skills, right? Like they don't
exactly.
happen by accident. And I will say this that like one of the shifts I appreciate seeing in public schools right now is more and more public school districts are designing learner profiles, portraits of a graduate, whatever you want to call them. And the idea there is that in addition to all the academic requirements that state testing and state accountability structures mandate, there's a set of competencies, right? We've talked about this, of skills that kids need in order to thrive as adults and in the workplace. And when you think about it, in our lots of current systems and certainly older systems, right? Remember back in the day when you got your elementary report cards, and
Yeah.
there was always that section on behavior,
Yeah.
right? And it was, played well with
Outstanding
others. It
colors.
was whatever. Okay. All right. I'm going to need some evidence that it was outstanding, but that's a different conversation.
O's
Um,
everywhere,
that
all over it.
doesn't surprise me at all. But think about it. That early, we said your kid is average, below average, above average in playing nice with others, being this, being that.
Participating, blah,
But
blah,
we
blah.
weren't actually teaching it. We weren't
No,
actually coaching it. So it was
no.
like you either have it or you don't. And if you
Mhm.
don't, sucks to be you. We need to work on
Look at
that. But
them.
nobody was taking charge of the working on it part, right?
Right.
We certainly weren't telling parents how to do it, and teachers were focused on reading, writing, arithmetic as they were dictated to be focused on. So
Yep.
this is interesting conversation for me to think about, like you said, this is what it looks like to be an adult who
Right.
has grown up in a space where the adults around them didn't realize, oh, we actually have to be intentional about building that in you,
Hmm.
right? Yeah,
Hmm.
there's some DNA stuff in there. Of course, you and I are living proof of that.
Sure.
But but our brains are so malleable from birth until our mid 80s that anything can be taught, right?
Yes.
So the other piece I wanted to lay on the table then as we continue to talk about like examples and then ways, right? Is this idea of one of the kind of, I would say, central things to building confidence and EI in your kids is this idea of encouraging autonomy.
Yes.
I didn't even know, like, we didn't even know we were going to necessarily have this conversation today, but I've seen a lot of stuff on different social platforms around this idea of allowing children in a developmentally appropriate way to take on responsibility for their environment, right? Because by doing that, we build a sense of independence, a sense of confidence around being able to contribute to the household, et cetera. So
Right.
we've talked a lot about, like, coming from really shitty environments. One of the things that I know I've done, you've said it about yours as well, is had to like had to rein myself in because I just want to do all the things for my kids because I didn't have that and I'd love for them to have it. But knowing better, knowing that if I do all the things, they're not building their skills, right? But I've seen some really great videos, and it encourages me because I have grandchildren to do this with, even though it's too late to do it for my own children, about even as young as like 3 and 4, a kid can help you empty the dishwasher. A kid can put away the juice boxes in the cupboard. A kid can, and when you foster that in them, the hard part about it is, as in our homes right now, right? Everybody's working, most households are 2 income, etc. We're all busy, we're all jammed up, we're all the things, and it takes time. It takes more time to have your 4-year-old do this thing or to help with this in this way. But how important it is at that early age to let them start doing it in order to build a sense of you have a responsibility to this family. It's not just that
Right.
you're here to be waited on hand and foot. Um, and B, to build their actual confidence that they're capable of doing it. And I
Right.
love it. I love this messaging, and I still don't see a lot of it, but in the ones that I'm seeing, I'm like, hell yeah, right? Like as
Right.
early as possible,
Yeah.
having them contribute.
You know, um, are we doing final thoughts?
Not yet. I think we got a few
Oh,
more minutes.
okay, good. Okay.
Remember, we started late because somebody on this call couldn't quite figure out her time issue.
We're not
Me.
going to
It's
name
me.
names. Starts with a
I'm
J.
the
Begins
problem. It's
with
me.
Anise.
I know. So we got a few more minutes. We're good. Let's talk. Yeah, so we can talk
Okay.
a little bit more about the
Yeah,
house.
well, something else that I truly, 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 truly believe in, and this is not always a fan favorite, but I will say this, and I will say that my good friend Dr. Pole, we're not really friends, but I love him. Dr. Pole, the incredible Dr. Pole on Nat Geo. He is a vet. He's in his 80s. He is
Okay.
amazing. He's from the Netherlands, and but he's lived out in, I think they're in Michigan. But he has this reality show, and he's a large and small animal doctor, and
Oh,
he
cool.
works, and it's mostly farmland out there. So he's pulling calves. He's fixing birds. He's doing
Amen.
things.
We got an
He
amen.
actually sees any animal, and he is so cool. He's just so cool. Um,
Yes.
but I learned how to cut dogs' toenails without them freaking out, even when they do freak out. So I'll
Oh,
have to,
yeah, yeah. We talked about that.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was pretty amazing. So something else I learned from Dr. Pohl, not something I learned from him, but he just reiterated it. I truly, 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 truly believe that kids have to grow up with at least one pet, because kids that are taking care of animals, and they have to take care of them. It's not you get a dog and you end up cleaning all the poop and the dog, do all the things. You really get the kid to love and take care of that animal. You raise good humans,
Yeah,
because they learn responsibility. They learn how to care for an animal. They can learn to care for another living thing that's not going to outlive them for the most.
right. Yeah,
So they have to deal with sickness and the death and the mourning and all of those things, and so it's not like a like tough love kind of thing, but they go through the whole process. And so when they become adults, they've been through that process once,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know and I grew up raising animals. We always had cats and dogs and birds, and we've had plenty of pets die. And I was in 4-H, and I had the sheep and goats and pigs and all those things, and it really taught me a lot. And even now, like, the pets are the kids' responsibilities. Chase has her
yeah,
own cat. Jenny takes care
yep,
of the dogs. I take care of the birds. She helps take care of the birds too.
yep,
And it's this communal thing, but we all love on the animals too. And,
yeah.
and it really does. It teaches them responsibilities and how to live in a house with noise.
Yeah. Yep. Amen. Well, and I got to tell you, that example is so important. So I love that as a way to build in your kids, right? By having to take care of another living thing.
Right.
And I'll say another little twist to this, right? Is Cammie's our youngest. She's 16 now, and another little twist here is that she is the one of our 6 kids who truly has grown up in a two-family household. In other words, parents divorced very early, and so, the back and forth. Now, there were periods of time when Joe was still in the Navy that she was just with mom, right? So, but, in the last 8 years, no, in the last 10 years, um, she has no, 8 years. She has been between households, right? And so now that she's in high school, it used to be like every 2 or 3 days. Now it's a week at a time. And I
Right.
do catch myself not giving her chores when she's
Hmm.
with us, because she's only with us a week at a time, every other week. And so it's almost like we're 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 taking more care of her, if you will, by not
Right.
asking her. And in the end, we're not, right? In the end, it's not helping. And so we have to really, even more so than ever before, be really intentional about
Right.
making ourselves have her contribute, because it's easy in that situation where you have the divorce and she has to go back and forth between homes, and it's easy to not do it because you don't want to make life harder. And I think there's no right or wrong answer, but because I know lots of people out there are sitting in those same shoes, what I would encourage is, like, remember that even when your kid has to go back and forth, yes, you should acknowledge that that is an additional stressor that was
Yeah.
created by adults, right? And so what we do is, like, if she
Punish
forgets something,
ourselves.
right, if she forgets something, we go get it, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're not gonna hold her responsible if the lifestyle that she lives because of our adult decisions is harder, right? Like, we're gonna fill in those gaps. But when she's with us, that it has to be that, we're all part of the household, everybody
Yep.
contributes. And so, she's responsible for cleaning her own room. She does her own laundry. She cleans up herself, after dinners and that kind of stuff. Um, but we have to really force that, because on the flip side, we make her lunch every day. Is she fully capable of making her lunch? Of course she is. But it's something we want to do, because we're also in the whole, like, we only have her for another year and that's
Right.
it. All of our kids are grown, right? All of our kids are like adult at that point. And so we do, like, there's little things that we do because it's like, well, this is it. Like, we really literally have this opportunity. And then from that point forward, we don't. So I think that idea of encouraging autonomy, building in early is really important. And then I think, and I want to tag on to that really quickly to say another great example that I just saw the other day was this idea of, like, from an early age, your child understanding the messaging that everybody contributes, right? That there's no such thing as all the 500 million things mom does, the couple of
Right.
things dad does, and then, you don't do anything. Or when you do something, oh, thank you for helping mom out.
Right.
No, that's actually your job, right? So
Yeah. You got to clean up after yourself.
that little intricate messaging, I think, is so important, because, again, with my kids when they were little, I would say, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much. That's so helpful to mommy that you're doing blah blah blah." But the switch to, it's not that you're doing mom a favor, it's that you're doing your part. And I just think, wow, yes, that makes so much sense to me, right? Like you're doing your part. So I think that's really important. And then the last thing, and then we can do kind of final thoughts, is this idea of providing specific feedback, which is
Right.
something we talk a lot about in schools. We still don't do a really great job university on, but as parents moving beyond, oh, good job, right? To specifically, I like how you did blank. And the
Right.
great story I heard about this, I have this fantastic colleague friend who does a lot of work around AI and that kind of stuff. She does workshops with schools and companies and stuff, and she's just so brilliant. But in our personal conversations, right? As we've talked about our experiences, so she said something to me a couple years ago that really struck me, and that was that her father has always been very specific with her and her sisters about what they bring to the world that's so important. And very, like from a young age, she remembers him saying things like, oh my gosh, you, this, and this. And he would list the very specific attributes she has that he knows is a value add in the world.
I
And
love.
I was so moved by that because I was like, I don't think I've ever done that for my own children in that way. And so I've started to try, and I'm not good at
Yeah.
it yet, right? And of course, your adult children are like, what's
Why are
up?
you saying this stupid shit
Why are
to
you
me?
being weird? Right? Why are you being weird? And
You're like
so
saying it with a tear in your eye. You're like, I just wanted you to know
just
that
want you
you're
to
really
know.
good at doing your eye makeup. And
Exactly. And the world is going to need that one day. But but
eyeliner
I
is on fleek. I just
exactly, exactly. But in all seriousness, in all seriousness,
sorry.
this is my final thought. The reminder that whether you are listening and you have children who are 2 or 12 or 22 or 52, it's never too late to come back and parent in these ways. It's never too late to make your relationship better. Jane, I think you said this last time we talked about parenting stuff and that was like, you've got to be the parent your children will choose to be with when they don't have to be with you anymore.
Right.
But if your child is 32, they've been in that space where they didn't have to for a long time. It is never too late, right? To come back and say, listen, I really just want to say this to you. Like you are this, and this.
Right.
And and what an asset that is to the people around you, et
Right.
cetera. And yeah, maybe you have to say, look, I know this is corny and I know it's so not me, but I gotta tell you, I heard this great podcast. I'm so talking with Jen and Jane the
Amazing.
other day.
Amazing
Changed my
podcast.
life. And it really made me think about this. And I've never done it before, and I want to start doing it. And I'm starting right now. And I just want you to know blank, right? This is what I'm thinking about when I
Love
think
that.
about you. So that's my final thought. What about you, friend?
Yeah. Yeah, to piggyback on that, I think that that's really good. I mean, I got to tell you, I've had to do that with my oldest daughter. I wasn't always the amazing mother I am right now.
I'm not going to believe that, but go ahead.
Well, I wasn't. I was
Because
a
you've
young
grown and
I've
evolved.
grown. Yep, I've grown and evolved, and I've become a coach, and I coach
Mhm.
myself, and I've gotten coached by other people, and
Yep.
all the fun stuff. And I had to not eat crow, but say, look, I made the decisions I made because of I was basing them off of what I knew
Yeah.
and how I knew how to survive. They were never to, and I never put my kids in danger or anything like that.
Of
But I
course.
say that, like, it was never to put you in danger or blah, 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 whatever. There was things in my life and people in my life that I had to manage
Yeah.
to survive,
Yeah.
and to make sure that you guys had everything that you needed and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I had to send you to your dad so I could do an internship and work 40 hours a week and do
Yep.
this, do that. So was it my preferred thing to do? No. And I'm
Yeah.
sorry I had to go there, and I'm sorry it wasn't great, but those were decisions I had to make to
Yep.
get to this point.
Yeah.
So communicating with them and then reiterating, how you feel about them and
That's
and
right.
what you enjoy about them most and all of those things, right? But also in the now, I it, Jenny and I struggle with her room cleanliness. She's very much so a person that's like, I'm going to leave all this trash right here
Oh,
until
yeah.
mom says something about it.
Until it decomposes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's,
Yeah. Yeah.
biological growth and everything else.
Yeah. It's great.
Or the dishes all disappear and then I'm like, let me go on that fence. So, but it's like our cat and mouse game. But yesterday I noticed that she cleaned up her room, and the first reaction is, well, it's about time, and that flashed through my
I know.
that
Yep.
flashed through my head, but I let that go, and I was like, wow, I really like what you did with your room. It looks good.
Yeah.
She's like, thanks. I'm like, no
There you
problem.
go.
You have a good day? Yeah, I had a good day. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I don't have those thoughts, because I have those thoughts, like the smart
Yep.
aleck mom, like it's about time, blah, 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 but it's not going to get me anywhere, right?
Exactly.
It's not going to
Exactly.
get any of us anywhere
Yeah.
unless they say something smarty pants, and then it's like, okay, game on, right?
Yeah.
But that's just how we run in our house. But I was like, no, you need to say something positive. You need to really congratulate her, because you
I
didn't
love
say
that.
shit.
Yeah.
Like my coach was like, and so I
Yep.
did, and she was happy, and
I
that's
love that.
all I wanted, but
Yeah.
she got acknowledged and validated, and that's all she needed, and that builds
Yep.
confidence too, you guys.
Yeah.
Those little changes in
100%.
our language is what helps build that emotional intelligence and the confidence in our kids.
Exactly. I love that. So, as we kind of continue down this road where we're, leaning into this parenting area, and we're going to, we have a whole list of different things we want to talk about with you guys, in addition to all the other things that we bring to the table. Now more than ever, we would love to hear from you. Right. And
Yeah,
so in the show notes is our email. And you can DM us on any of our social platforms, etc. But we would love to bring other people's experiences to the table, much like we did with Rose, right? Like
yeah,
Rose's story was about like,
it was
here's how
perfect.
she navigated it and what she learned. But this is also a space for, here's what I'm dealing with, and I'm really trying to figure it out. Can you help? And we would love to have those conversations as a part of our episodes as we evolve over the next couple of years as well. And so if you have a story, if you're in the middle of something that's just really hard for you, and this is a way that, and you feel like this is a space where we could help, we can keep you anonymous. You don't have to come in here and say, my
Totally.
child's name is this. She goes to this school. She's in this grade level. Everybody go find her, right? Like we
Yeah,
can keep it anonymous, but have a conversation where we can kind of coach around this issue that you're struggling with and how you might get to the other side of it. And we would love to bring some of those into this space. So please make sure that you reach out to us and DM us so that we can send you a link. You can sign up for some time to have a pre-conversation with us and think through, and then come on and record, because it's that conversation, I think, that helps us learn best. When you're out walking and listening to this podcast, or driving, or however you
singing
consume
your
it.
house, Rose. Hey, Rose.
Exactly. When you're doing that, right? Like being able to like hear in the moment, real time issues and how people talk through and think through them is a really big value add that we want to bring to the table. So
Yeah.
this is your sign to do it, right?
Yeah, and I'll leave you with these two things.
Numero uno.
Get them already? I had two locked and loaded. Two
And you forgot them?
locked
Did you
and
forget
loaded.
them?
Yeah, I'm just like, yeah,
Oh my
I know what you
God. So
say.
you started this episode not remembering your own name, and you're ending the episode forgetting your genius
Remembering my
thoughts.
own name.
So, everybody,
No, they were good. They
we're
were
gonna
good
leave now,
points,
and
dude.
we're
Keep
gonna
those
get
in.
Jane some help because Jane needs some
Please.
help. But she's gonna here's the deal. She's gonna remember them, and then when she posts the record,
Oh, I remember them. I
oh,
remember.
she
Okay,
remembers.
two
Okay,
things.
go
Okay.
ahead. Here we go.
So, one, if you
Yeah,
write us a letter, we will print it out and burn it in the fire and the fireside chat. So don't worry about us repeating
I
your
love
stuff.
it. That's
Yeah,
perfect.
that's our commitment, is we're going to burn
Perfect.
your letter, your email.
Burn
We'll
it
put
in the
it on the whole
dumpster fire.
computer in the fire. Boom.
I love it.
Then two. Now, you guys haven't heard Kyle yet, and you're going to hear him on a future episode. But this guy,
No, they'll have heard him by then.
well, yeah. Oh, yeah. So you will have heard him by
Yeah.
now. Let me just tell you something. This man calls me the next morning, and I answer the phone, and he goes, podcast expert, how can I help you? Oh, so now he's a fucking prima donna and wants to know when he's coming back, because he had so much fun with us. So now he thinks he's a podcast expert, and he just needs to be on every episode.
Okay, so you tell him, slow your roll.
Yeah,
And that if he wants to send us a well thought out paper, I'm thinking 10 pages, double spaced,
yeah,
10 font, with all of his ideas, so we can
yes.
decide if he has good enough ideas, then maybe we'll consider it. We'll put it
Yeah,
in front of the committee.
he asked for feedback, and I did tell him, I said, you got a little lengthy on one of your stories. I said, but next time, instead of thinking about things that you want to talk about, you can write them down and bring the list
I
to us.
like it.
He was
I
like,
like it.
I'm going to do that.
Check. So we're going to develop future podcasters too. I love it. All right, you guys, listen. Thank you, thank you, thank you. for listening. Thank you for following. Make sure you subscribe, all the things, and can share. Please share.
Yes.
That's what we're asking
Please.
for. Please share,
And
right?
we know your friends too. Stop being jerks.
Exactly. Stop keeping us all to yourself. It's rude, right?
Yeah.
Selfish, selfish. But we love you. Thank you so much. Peace out, guys.
Bye.